boys and girls, it's Mrs. Pecora here, back to read more chapters of our book, I Survived Hurricane Katrina 2005. In our last chapter, we read that the hero of our story, Barry, him and his friend Jay were outside talking, and Barry's dad came and said they had to evacuate. So Hurricane Katrina was getting ready to hit New Orleans. So let's read and see what happened in the next installment of I Survived Hurricane Katrina 2005. Here we go. Okay, chapter 5. And boys and girls, you might see a little friend coming in here. This is my new puppy, Winston. He might appear in the stories sometimes. Winston. So he might appear when I'm reading, so just so you know, don't be alarmed, that's our new puppy. And you know, puppies are a little bad sometimes. So hopefully he's good and listens to the story as well. Okay, chapter 5, here we go. Hurricane Katrina is now a Category 5 storm, folks, said the man on the radio. That's the strongest there is. Winds 175 miles an hour. Waves will be 20 feet high. It's aiming right for our beautiful city, right for us. This is the storm we've been fearing. It's time to leave. Time to get... Mom switched off the radio. Okay, she said softly. I heard you. We're leaving. Who are you talking to, Mom? Barry asked. She looked surprised to see him. Sorry, baby, she said, turning and kissing Barry on the cheek. The man is getting on my nerves. She had 3 coolers arranged on the floor and was filling them with food for their car trip. Are you worried? Barry asked, brushing some flour from Mom's sleeve. She had been baking all morning. Not at all, she said, but Barry could see she was fibbing. Mom always baked when she got nervous, and she packed enough muffins and cookies in those coolers to feed the saints. We're almost ready, right? She asked. Barry nodded. He'd helped Dad board up the windows. He carried the porch furniture and Cleo's princess house into the shed. Need anything else? Find your sister, Mom said. She hasn't been herself all morning. I need you to work some Barry magic on her. Barry found his sister crying in her bed. What is it, Cleo? He asked. My princess house, she wailed. That lady took it. What lady? Katrina. Barry tried not to smile. In that 3-year-old brain of Cleo's, Katrina was probably a big fat vampire lady flying through the air. Your princess house is safe in the shed, Barry said, and Katrina isn't a lady. It's just a bunch of clouds. We're not afraid of clouds, are we? Cleo looked at Barry with her huge, teary eyes. Barry always got a soft feeling in his heart, like the purring of a little cat, when he looked at his sister. Good thing he wasn't a superhero. One look at a crying Cleo and all his powers would be drained away. We're having an adventure, Barry said. You can't cry on an adventure. Cleo gave a big sniff. Will a Vico be there? She asked. Oops, page is stuck, boys and girls. Uh-oh, hold on 1 second. Of course, Cleo knew all about a Vico. For weeks, anytime Barry told Cleo a bedtime story, he made a Vico the star. Who rescued Snow White from the evil stepmother? A Vico. Who saved the 3 little pigs from the big bad wolf? A Vico. Now, Barry put his face closer to his sister's. I think a Vico will be waiting for us in Houston tonight, he said. He hated tricking Cleo, but it wasn't really a lie. A Vico was always appearing in Barry's dreams. Maybe Cleo would dream about him too. Direct us? That's right, Barry said. He will protect us. Cleo gave another big messy sniff and then nodded bravely. I won't cry, she whispered. She held out her arms so Barry could pick her up. He pulled her close. She put her head on his shoulder and let him carry her to the car. 10 minutes later, they were on the road. Chapter 6. They sped through the lower 9 and crossed the St. Claude Avenue Bridge. They drove past the bakery where Mom had worked before Cleo was born. She learned how to make Barry's favorite caramel cake there. Mom's dream was to open her own bakery. They didn't have the money for that now. But one day, Mom always said, one day. She said those words so often, they had become the Tucker family motto. Boys and girls, these pages are certainly sticking a lot today. Sorry. One day, Barry's dad would have a deal with the record label. One day, they'd get rid of their dented old Honda and buy a nice new car. Maybe even one day, Barry wouldn't be so scared of Abe McKay and his friends. One day. They drove a few more blocks, and then Dad pulled up in front of Lightning's, the club where he and his band played most Thursday nights. The owner, Dave Rivet, was one of Dad's closest friends. Barry had known him since before he could walk. "Why are we stopping?" Barry asked. "Dad wants to make sure Uncle Dave is leaving," Mom said. Uncle Dave had spotted their car through the window. He came outside and hustled over to them, his big belly shaking. Uncle Dave had a smile that made you feel like he'd been waiting his whole life to see you. Dad stuck his arm out the window. Uncle Dave shook Dad's hand and blew a kiss to Mom. He peered in the back seat. "Hey there, Barry. Hello there, Princess," he boomed, his words stretched out by his thick drawl. "Grab your bag," Dad said. "We'll make room for you." Uncle Dave peered at the little space between Barry and Cleo and laughed. "You gonna tie me to the roof?" he asked. Dad's expression was serious. "They're telling everyone to leave," he said. "That means you too." "Someone needs to keep an eye on our city," Uncle Dave said. "I'm keeping the club open so folks have a place to go." "I don't like it," Dad said. "The place will be fine," Uncle Dave said, "and so will I." Barry could tell that Uncle Dave wasn't changing his mind. Dad grabbed Uncle Dave's hand again. "You take care," Dad said. "And if you change your mind, I'm right here," Uncle Dave said. "I already told some folks, don't go to the Superdome, just come to Lightning's. I have my generator and about 1,000,000 hot dogs." "We'll keep that in mind," Dad said. Uncle Dave put his hands on Dad's shoulders. "And I better see you this Thursday for the show." Dad laughed and started up the engine. "Let's hope." "Isn't it a bad idea for him to stay?" Barry asked once they'd driven away. "This neighborhood doesn't usually get flooded," Dad said. "It's a bit higher than the rest of the city. And let's face it, if anyone can keep a hurricane away, it's Dave," Mom said. They sped toward Interstate 10, but the closer they got, the heavier the traffic became. Soon, the car was standing still. Barry opened his window. Sorry about that, boys and girls. Barry opened his window and stuck his head out. The line of cars and trucks stretched as far as he could see. The hot and sticky air stunk of car exhaust. Dad clicked on the radio and punched a button until he found a traffic report. The news was terrible. Cars were backed up for hundreds of miles leading out of the city. "This'll take all day," Mom said softly, reaching into the cooler and taking out a blueberry muffin. Dad patted her leg. Cleo fussed, and Barry tried to distract her with one of their stories. An hour went by, and the car didn't budge. Dad had to turn off the air conditioner so the engine wouldn't overheat. Cleo whined and moaned and finally fell asleep. That's him looking out at the sea of cars trying to evacuate. Another hour passed. They'd moved just a few feet. Barry's shirt was soaked with sweat. At this rate, it would be hours before they even got into the highway, and then they had more than 300 miles to drive. What if they were stuck in traffic when the storm hit? Before Barry could ask that scary question, Cleo woke up and started to wail. And then, as Barry was reaching for her favorite stuffed poodle, a wave of warm soup splashed across his lap. What in the... Except it wasn't soup. Cleo had thrown up. She threw up again, this time into the front seat, and again onto the floor. There was a moment of shocked silence, and then Cleo burst into tears. "Wah!" she wailed. The awful smell rose in the car. Barry put his hands over his face, which made Cleo scream more. Mom unhooked her seatbelt and scrambled into the back seat. Dad rummaged in the glove compartment and found a wad of napkins. Mom started to wipe off Cleo's face. "This little girl is burning up," Mom said. Barry reached over to feel Cleo's forehead. She was boiling. "What's wrong?" Barry asked, his heart racing. "I'm sure it's just a bug," Dad said. "She'll be all right." Mom gave Cleo a sip of water. "It's okay, baby," she said. "Just try to settle down. You'll feel better soon." But Cleo threw up again and again. She screamed so loudly, people in the other lanes peered out their car windows. Mom and Dad looked at each other, and Barry understood exactly what they was thinking. There was no way they could get on the highway with Cleo that sick. Sure enough, Dad pulled out of the line of traffic and pointed the car back home. All right, boys and girls, that's it for today's installment of I Survived Hurricane Katrina 2005. If you heard that screeching, that was just my bird making an awful lot of racket. And next time we read, I'll put him on my shoulder so you can at least see him and see why he was making all that racket. Thanks. Bye-bye.